Hello and welcome to Success Stories on Reboot TV. Tonight we have our returning guest, Miss Caroline Robbins. Hello, Caroline.
Hi, thanks for having me.
My pleasure to have you here. You're so kind to do this again. We did a testimonial interview, success story, whatever you want to call it, early on when Caroline was just starting the program and was blown away and really was getting some great success. But Caroline's continued to have amazing success. She passed her 12-week mark and losing 25 pounds along the way, and she's up to 32 pounds off. And she's past her halfway mark and starting to add back in carbohydrates and practicing metabolic flexibility starting next week. I can't even begin to list all of the benefits you've reaped from this, but just off the top of my head, you used to have plantar fasciitis, and you thought I was insane by saying you were going to be sprinting and walking and doing everything.
I was like, no, I can't do that. You don't understand. I have a foot condition. That'll never happen.
Yeah. And I just said, yeah, okay. We'll see. And hoping that the anti-inflammatory quality of everything. But Caroline signed on for the program big time. She had a lot of trust, and she and I had known each other before, and she just said, I'll do it, and had some hesitation of her own, as everybody does when they're expected to change. That, change is not our normal state, and it's hard to do so. But her success has been the most consistent forward movement of weight loss, inches lost, quality of life being raised in so many areas. And, I don't want to tell all your good stories, but could you tell us a little bit about the difference between the you that heard about this and why you wanted to do it, why you wanted to jump on, what you thought it was going to be, and what it ended up actually being? Because that would really help someone who's looking at this for the first time.
So there are so many parts to it. One of the things, this dress that I'm wearing right now, I have a photo. It's a family photo. It's hanging up in our dining room. And in that photo, I am 30 plus pounds heavier than I am today. And in the photo, I'm holding my son in front of me to try and hide my belly. The angle at which the photo's being taken, I'm not hiding anything. And I just look at that photo. I used to look at that photo and feel really ashamed about my image. And actually, throughout this process, I've gone back and I've looked for photos of myself pre-program, and I find that they are so few and far between because I hated photographing myself. I hated being in photographs. I would go to a work event and they would say, oh, everyone get together. And I would just kind of try and stand in the back or try and angle myself a certain way, and I just didn't like how it looked. And now I take selfies all the time. I'm constantly, and I'm just proud. And the photo is just one little piece of it. I mean, the thing that I did not expect was I did not expect to have so much of a mindset shift. I did not expect to encounter and then overcome so many mental and emotional obstacles. So it's a simple thing to show up in a testimonial like this and say, I've lost 36 inches off my body. I've lost 30 pounds in 17 weeks. Like, that's really cool. And it's totally cool. But what happened in addition to that was I learned how to make a plan and stick to it. And then I get to reap the benefits of that plan. And I get to feel super proud of myself. I actually feel like before this program started, and for a good portion of the beginning as I was getting into it, I realize now that I was thinking about food all the time, throughout a day, just food. And I was just constantly obsessed with food. And now I still think about food. We have to think about food, but I'm not obsessed over it. And what happened that is a delight and a surprise to me is I have all this time for myself and for my family that I can do whatever I want with. Now, my daughter will say to me, Mom, I want to show you something. Mom, I want to tell you about something. And I, partially because I'm not thinking about food, which I realize now I was constantly all the time, I can say to her, and I want to say to her because I'm actually present in that moment. And again, not being distracted by food every moment of every day of my life. What is it? I want to sit with you and I want you to tell me whatever it is you want to tell me. I can actually be more present with my daughter. So there's all sorts of things. You know, I have developed some self-compassion throughout this process that I didn't have. I think I didn't realize how poorly I was doing in the area of self-compassion, and how I have kind of a little bit of a perfectionist and an OCD thing. I found out actually for a while that, well, I realized that I was not being totally truthful in my food journaling, which I discussed extensively with my therapist, and it's very obvious that was not serving me. But that was something that when I told you, Sheila, you were so supportive and so caring, and so you really helped me to move past that. And so, like yesterday, I submitted a new food journal, and you and I are having great conversations about how much almond butter and how much chocolate and how much chia pudding and what's a serving and how frequently should you have this. But that's different from a version of me in the program where I had been withholding. And so these are just a few of the things. I mean, I have also totally, fallen, if you will, to temptation, just totally eaten food off my plan, spur of the moment, talk to Sheila about it, talk to the group about it, gotten so much support, and then sort of set myself up for, okay, when temptation and desire inevitably occur, how will I deal with it? And now that I've been able to sort of make mistakes in program and then talk about them and then get support and get advice, then the next time it happens, I can actually think about it differently. So I am just so surprised and pleased that, like, I know that I'm not going back to the way it used to be. I know that I will not. And it's because the changes are not just food changes. The changes are not just movement changes. The changes are actually mind changes. Like, my mind is changing and it's not going back. And that's pretty cool. Even my fridge has changed. I was just kind of saying to you, I wish I had taken a picture of my refrigerator before I started the program, because now it looks really different. So that was a whole bunch of stuff all at once.
Well, I am going to be adding the pre-kitchen purge pick that needs to happen now, because people, just like about themselves or any other habits, a refrigerator full of processed foods and foods that aren't the best things to be putting inside of you, you kind of get blindness to it. It's like when I was 123 pounds heavier, I didn't look at my whole body in a mirror. I looked at this to put makeup on and maybe get my hair out of the way, and that was it. I didn't take the long shot of who I was, or I didn't look at the reflection in the building when I went by. I would look the other way, and to take a picture of the fridge and then go back and look at it later and go, look at all the junk we used to put in our bodies. And the other part of that I had mentioned too, it's as you raise your standards of the qualities of food that you're willing to put inside of your body, you also take stock of how much refined sugar am I willing to give my kids? And that you're passing these healthy habits that are mental, spiritual ways of being and having an intentional life, spiritual in the like part of the universe, spiritual way, that you're showing your children through your example. You're patterning that for them. When something happens and you can tell someone and they're not going to freak out at you, that you don't have to hold that in. Like that would be a wonderful thing to share. Like I was afraid that my coach was going to get mad at me, but I told her the truth and she was so proud of me. And she kind of knew already that I'd been doing that and let me find it for myself. But people aren't going to be upset with you if you come clean and you tell them what's going on. The thing that upsets them is when you hide things. That's a lesson I didn't learn till I was about 40. It took me a long time to learn that one. I had someone in my life who was very forgiving at the time, could bring anything to, and it changed my life. And so that's the kind of coach that I want to be, that you can bring anything to me. You're not hurting anyone but yourself when you don't disclose. So it's not like it hurts me in any way. But my job isn't to make people feel guilty about it either. It's to help them find their better way. Not to tell them what to do, but to help them find their better way. And saying it's a mind-body program, people kind of understand, something to do with my head or lifestyle stuff or whatever, but it really is rebooting into an optimal version of yourself. Would you say that's a true statement?
Oh, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
I think about like, what would my life be like today if I had not decided to make this decision several months ago? I would be in the obese category. I would have a lot more self-hatred, a lot less self-compassion. There's so much about myself that I learned. One of the big things actually is patience. I've learned patience
With
which
yourself?
is super with myself, and that turns out to translate to others. So I end up being more patient with my partner and with my children.
What
And
do you
that
account that to, the patience part? Is that part of the mindfulness practice of being present and curious and observant, or what do you think that is from?
I think that I think that part of it has to do with a combination of planning and also self-awareness,
Mm.
such that in any given moment, my mind is not obsessed with food, obsessed with the scale, obsessed with a
And the
fasting
judgment
app
of
that I
that, like the
downloaded.
negativity and the judgment of that obsession too, because when
Yeah,
you're obsessed, you're also upset with yourself about being obsessed, and none of the metrics you go back to feel better. You go back to the scale every 15 minutes and it's never the right kind of story. It informs you how you feel about yourself. And you disconnect from those things and you add compassion, which is you're having self-compassion, but you can't have self-compassion without also introducing compassion into other areas of your life, which may also account for what you're talking about before, that lack of judgment, that lack of snap judgment on some of the forgiving nature.
right.
When you introduce compassion into, I can't get mad at them. Look what everything they've been through. Okay. You know, so it really builds, it snowballs in your life in such a good way. Do you think you will ever go back to those old ways of living?
I don't think so. And I think that the reason is because, well, first of all, I'm actually not hungry because I'm fat adapted. So feeling actually not hungry is a totally, like, used to be a very foreign thing. The other thing is I'm actually I'm I'm more loving toward myself, both sort of now as well as myself pre-program. So I wrote to the group the other day and I said, look, I looked at this photo of myself on the wall, and instead of thinking to myself some negative, sort of shameful thoughts, I thought to myself, like, I love this person and I respect this person, and I know what this person has been through, and I know that this person is strong and capable. And that's something that we talk about a lot in this program, which is we don't hate our pre-programmed selves. We aren't disgusted by our pre-programmed selves. We love our pre-programmed
We're
selves.
grateful to them for getting us to this point. They're the ones that made
Absolutely.
the decision to make this change.
Absolutely. And with that self-compassion that I am developing, because it is very different, I just have tools now that I didn't have before. And I can acknowledge that when I think about my pre-programmed self also. I can say, you didn't have the tools that you have now. You know, this isn't like your fault. You're not a bad person. So that perhaps that's a nice way
You
to
just didn't know about how to
put
go
it.
about it before. You wanted all of this, and you were being a vegan in order, you were on a journey of trying to discover some health.
I
And you
tried.
had, yeah,
I tried vegan for 9 months. I tried working out in sort of a more traditional way of working out for 3 months, and I didn't see anything changing. And it was very frustrating.
and your plantar fasciitis flared up in a big way, and it was kind of defeating to feel like now I can't work out either. So great.
And I had really bad PMS symptoms.
Mm.
And now my
it,
husband has been texting me because I'm 5 minutes over, so I have to run pretty soon.
well, thank you very much for your time tonight. Caroline Robbins, you've been my favorite success story, and you're so supportive of everyone in the group, and you're such a role model to everyone, both in your transparency and in your ability to understand things and to be open and be giving and be grateful. And we all thank you. You're such a great part of this group, and it wouldn't be the same without you. So thank you so much for your time tonight. And we'll see you in the program.
My pleasure.